together. And you know, Orson Scott Card is asking, is life a game? Is there more to life than, you know, moving pieces and winning and getting the most for yourself? And you know, that's a question that he wants his readers to consider. Again, I'm not going to tell you an answer to that, but I think it's something that you should think about. All right, I've got to erase the board, and let's talk a little bit about illusions. There's an underlying set of illusions in Ender's Game. Maybe I won't erase the board. Maybe I'll just talk about it. First off, you're going to get to this weird chapter, chapter 9, that's called Demosthenes and Locke. These are two famous people, and you know, Valentine and Peter are going to get online and use fake identities. Valentine is going to take on Demosthenes' name, and Peter's going to take on Locke's name, and they're going to impact the world through, you know, this was written in the 80s, so it's chat rooms, but the reality is that it's very much like meme culture and social media and all of those things, and Card was really pretty good in predicting what was going to happen in the world. So anyway, Valentine takes on this name, Demosthenes, and that's a Athenian Greek politician. He was essentially a warmongering Athenian who wanted Athens to fight against Macedon back in the day. And so she takes on this personality that's calling for action and wanting war and stuff like that, which is actually very opposite of her personality, but she does it under the bidding of Peter. And Peter takes on the name of Locke, and Locke is an allusion to this guy, John Locke. You may have heard the famous saying, "I think, therefore I am." He's the guy who came up with that. He is sort of one of the central figures of the Enlightenment, and so it's interesting that they take on these names which are illusions and which you probably should look up on Wikipedia. Hint. And that you know, their names are sort of opposite. Their online personalities are opposite of their own natural tendencies, which helps them in their writing. And then the other major set of illusions that go on here, I would say, are to Norse mythology. You know, if you read the oh gosh, it's not Percy Jackson. If you read the Rick Riordan books about Norse mythology, you probably have some, Magnus Chase, that's what it's called. You probably have some idea of Norse mythology, and you can make some of these connections. But if you understand the Norse world, you'll understand some things right away. In Norse mythology, the world is created when Odin kills a giant named Ymir, and he dies, and his body is the world. His bones are the mountains and the stones. His decaying flesh is the soil. His blood is the ocean. The clouds are his brains. You know, like, there's all this cool stuff. But the dead body of a giant is the world, and then there's sort of these three levels of the world. There's Middle Earth, there's sort of Hell, which is down below Earth, and there's Asgard, which is Upper Earth, and it's connected to Earth through this bridge. It's a rainbow bridge. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on with that. But what you need to know is that in Norse mythology, there's this guy named Odin, and he's the king of the gods. And he knows the future. He knows what's going to happen. He knows that ultimately everything's going to end in this giant battle called Ragnarok, in which the forces of hell and all of these undead zombies and monsters and demons and ice giants are going to converge on Asgard and attack it. And they're going to fight an apocalyptic battle, and everybody's going to die. And Odin knows this. Odin also has these powers where he has this magical throne, very much like Santa Claus. He can sit on the throne, and he can see anything on Earth and hear anything on Earth. And so Graf is very much an Odin figure in this story. He seems to know what's going on. He sees through Ender's eyes. He hears through Ender's ears. He spies on him all the time. And he's using Ender to be one of his playing pieces in this apocalyptic battle for, you know, the future of humanity. And so there's a good connection there. I told you that the world was created about a dead giant's body. Well, in the mind game, Ender's going to kill a giant, and that giant is going to be the foundation of the world upon which, you know, the rest of the mind game takes place. And so that's a very clear reference to Norse mythology as well. And then there's Battle School in general. One of the primary buildings in Asgard, which is Upper Earth, which is like this floating area above Earth, kind of like a space station floating over the Earth, just saying. is a building called Valhalla. And Valhalla, you know, it's this pretty interesting thing. In Valhalla, whenever anybody dies on Earth and they die with a sword in their hand, they get taken to Valhalla by these Valkyries who take the shape of crows and pick out your soul and fly it up into the afterlife. It's pretty creepy. But they appear in Valhalla, and all the great warriors of all time are there. And every day, what happens in the Norse afterlife is, you know, like they bang a gong, and everybody gets up and they put on their armor, and they go out onto this giant plain called Vigrid, and they fight all day. And by the end of the day, there's like a, I don't know, 3-foot deep pile of corpses, and everybody's fighting on top of it. And there's like 2 guys left, and they're cutting each other up. And then the sun goes down and they bang the gong and everybody wakes up and they're not dead, and they go inside and they have a giant party and eat and feast. And this is how the afterlife goes on forever. And except that it's not forever, because in Norse mythology it all ends on this day called Ragnarok. Well, it turns out that these people who are in Valhalla above Earth fighting all day every day are actually training for this final battle in which all the mortal heroes of all time are going to go out and fight on the side of the gods and die. So they're going to fight on Odin's side. And that's very much what Battle School is. Battle School, these kids are in these trainings all day long. They go into this battle room where they shoot each other and they essentially die. Their little freeze suits freeze them and they can't move, and they're gone from the battle. But the next, you know, as soon as the battle's over, they unfreeze and they're back alive again, and then they can go in and they can train. And so you've got a lot of references to Valhalla and the warriors there through the games themselves, and I think that's interesting as well. There's other illusions and other things going on, but I feel like if you understand that matrix, you can understand some of the things that Orson Scott Card is doing in the novel. Yeah, I think that's all of it for this lecture. It's about 20 minutes. Hopefully, you know, you can watch it. It uploads okay, and I'll try and do some more later. I hope you're all healthy. I hope you're all safe. You know, I miss having school, but I'll try and record these every now and again and put them up there for you. And if we do go to virtual learning, I am going to try and record a series of lectures and classwork assignments and get them to you so that you're not, you know, hopefully it's not boring, you know. Anyway, I'm going to go push that button and call it good enough. See you later.